I'm simply recording with my phone from the English Standard Version with Apocrypha, first, of chapter 1 of 1 Machabees, verses 10 through 15. From them came forth the sinful root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus. He had been a hostage in Rome. He began to reign in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days, lawless men came forth from Israel and misled many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with Gentiles round about us. For since we separated from them, many evils have come upon us." This proposal pleased them, and some of the people eagerly went to the king. He authorized them to observe the ordinances of the Gentiles. So they built a gymnasium in Jerusalem, according to Gentile custom, and removed the marks of circumcision and abandoned the Holy Covenant. They joined with the Gentiles and sold themselves to do evil. Now verses 41 through 50. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and that each should give up his customs. All the Gentiles accepted the command of the king. Many, even from Israel, gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned the Sabbath. And the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the cities of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid whole burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offering in the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and feasts, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars and sacrifice precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane. So they should forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. Finally, verses 54 through the end, verse 64. Now, on the 15th day of Chislev, in the 145th year, they erected a desolating sacrilege upon the altar of whole burnt offering. They also built altars in the surrounding cities of Judah, and burned incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets. The books of the law that they found there tore to pieces and burned with fire. Where the book of the covenant was found in the possession of anyone, or if anyone adhered to the law, the decree of the king condemned him to death. They kept using violence against Israel, against those found month after month in the cities. And on the 25th day of the month, they offered sacrifice on the altar that was upon the altar of whole burnt offering, according to the decree. They put to death the women who had their children circumcised, and their families, and those who circumcised them. And they hung the infants from their mothers' necks. But many in Israel stood firm, and were resolved in their hearts not to eat unclean food. They chose to die rather than to be defiled by food or to profane the holy covenant. And they did die. And very great wrath came upon Israel. Now I want to read from the Knox version, again, chapter 1 of 1 Maccabees. Not quite as much, a little more selective, but with commentary. So verse 12, in this day there were godless talkers abroad in Israel, that did not want for hearing. Come, said they, let us make terms with the heathen that dwell about us. Isn't that nice? You know, that's how you're going to have friends. Win friends and influence people. That's how you're going to be a success. Right? You need to go along to get along. Verse 15. With that, they must have a game place at Jerusalem, after the Gentile fashion, and go uncircumcised, forgotten their loyalty to the Holy Covenant. They must throw in their lot with the heathen and become the slaves of impiety. So with our rampant pornography and our hookup culture and our homosexuality, America is given into slavery to their lusts, debauchery, drunkenness, gluttony, just constantly pursuing entertainment, gaming, movies, Netflix, constant stimulation, constant entertainment. I'm not talking about a little occasional entertainment that everybody needs to relax now and then. I'm talking about as a dominant lifestyle, intruding on one's relationships, on one's responsibilities, on one's prayer. And just as they gave into their Greek games, these Hellenistic Jews that went the way of Greece, look at our games. Look at the halftime of football. Look at the lives of most of the football players, their coaches, the cheerleaders. We're in this kind of culture. If it sounds funny to say come out from among them, you know, there were people doing that. Maybe they were right when they were doing it back in the 1950s. It's wrong to go to movies. It's wrong to go to dance. Don't eat or chew or go with girls who do. Those kind of things. They were the fighting fundies, right? I don't know. I didn't live back then. Maybe it was, as some people say, pharisaical and rule-oriented and not a religion of the heart. I don't know. I can't say. But what about the 70s? What about people who were into the come out from among them crowd there and not having a television in their house? That was radical. Well, I don't know. Maybe they were right. Maybe most of the movies and the dances and, they were right, but they sure were odd, weren't they? Okay, but now? Really? Look at the football halftimes for the Super Bowl. Watch the last several of them on YouTube. They're basically just demonic sacrifices. I mean, by rock stars like Beyonce, literally, who says that a spirit comes on her and she couldn't do what she does, sing what she does, dance how she does, were it not for the spirit working through her. She raises up her hands and invites the spirit into her. The spirit's name is Sasha. So, I mean, it's just in your face, satanic, demonic, obviously purely sensual, disgusting. And we take our children to these things? Really? How are we not like the Hellenized Jews that First Machabees here is talking about? Those who have so compromised that they're part of the world system. They're part of Satan's kingdom. They're going along with it, celebrating it, filled with it, and they think they're Christians, not apostates. I don't know. I'm not God. Maybe they still are. I don't know their heart. But it certainly appears they're in grave danger. So you better be ready to be a freak. Because if you're not partaking in American culture, you don't fit in. You can't have a normal conversation. You don't know what people are talking about at lunch because you're not reading their magazines. You're not watching their filthy television series. You're not going to their perverse, occultic-like games. You're not part of the culture. You don't fit in. You know, you might lose a promotion that way. Heck, you might lose your job that way, at least by soft persecution, simply by you're not fitting in. But if you want to fit in, go ahead. You better celebrate transgenderism. You better not challenge it when your kids come home from 3rd grade, 7th grade, high school, especially if one of them decides that they want to turn to the other sex, supposedly, or they want to practice homosexuality, or they want to be on the pill because they want to have heterosexual sex, whatever. Well, you better be ready to offer your child on the sacrifice to Baal, Baphomet, Molech, take your pick. Because if you pull your child out from that, tell your child no, and word gets around, wow. You know, in Canada or England, be ready to lose your child. And to think that that's not coming to America, I think you'd have to be pretty naive. Just imagine one election away, how things could go. 4 years from now, where we could be. Where do you think we would have been if Hillary Clinton won the presidential election? How do you think things were going? We're in just a little reprieve right now. Maybe like the eye of the hurricane. A little reprieve. What are you going to do with that window? Buy land, prep, store up, guns and ammo? Well, that's probably not the kind of protection you especially do need. What you especially need is to have your heart right with God, to quit your sinning, your filthy habits, your unholy heart. That's the kind of prepping you do need, because even with the other kinds of prepping, you know, we're all going to die anyway, right? That's 100% guaranteed. So that's the kind of prepping we really need to be focused on here, is the prepping of our own hearts. And I'm not saying then don't buy cheap land and put a shipping container out on it. And, you know, if God's leading you to do that, I don't know. Great. If you have the resources to buy a cabin in the woods, go for it. But if you think that's going to be your salvation, well, you could just run into that cabin and get, you know, lose your life there, right? From a heart attack or whatever. All right, let's go down to verse 30. 2 years passed, and then the king sent his chief collector of revenue to visit the cities of Judah. To Jerusalem he came with a great rabble at his heels, and won credence with idle professions and friendship. So maybe your leaders will just tell you things that you want to hear. Hey, you know what? It's not going to make any difference if we do this. You'll still have your same marriage, just as we'll have our marriage. It's no different. just live and let live. And how did that turn out? Then he fell suddenly on the town and grievously mishandled it, slaying Israelites a many, plundering the city, and setting fire to it. Countless examples of that, right? Politicians saying one thing, and when the time is right, they do what they want. So as Christians, we can't be naive. The Catholic Church needs to be cleansed, as does the Protestant Church, as does how about the public school unions, teachers unions, teachers and employees of the public school system. Yeah, that's actually a lot worse. But cleansing in every segment of our perverse society is needed, of course. But what the Attorney General in Michigan now could be set out to do would be using that as a pretext to claim that the Catholic Church is basically a hate group because it practices hate speech. Well, that's then, I guess, what I'm doing right now. Because am I saying that transgenderism and that homosexuality are unbiblical? Yeah, I am. Oh, then I'm a hater. That's hate speech. No, actually, I'm not advocating violence against anybody. Never have. Everybody needs to be loved. Everybody is in God's image. We all fall short of God's glory. We all need forgiveness. But, you see, here too, okay, you know what? Sometimes, especially with chips, I eat too much and too late. It's a problem. I'm overweight. So you're not doing me any favors if you're saying, oh, we won't body shame you. Go ahead and eat, Dan. That's great. Yeah, eat a lot of chips and take in more cholesterol, why don't you? And sure, do it late at night. That's fine. And then go to bed right afterwards. Yeah, that's just you, Dan. That's great. You wouldn't be my friend. You wouldn't be doing me any favors. Okay. Well, the same sort of thing then with transgenderism. Pumping a 9-year-old child full of drugs. We don't know what the effects are. Even while we know that likely their transgenderism fixation will be gone some years later. We do know that. But no, let's start cutting off body parts. Sewing parts on. Giving them drugs that they're going to have to be on the rest of their life. No, I don't think that's good science. No, I don't think a man can become a woman or the other way around. No, I don't think it's good psychology. Yes, I believe it's unbiblical. Oh, I'm a hater. No, I'm not hating anybody. As a matter of fact, I'm loving them because I'd like to see them to a different solution, which would be one that wouldn't destroy them in multiple levels in their life. How about with homosexuality? You ever look up the CDC on that? The statistics? I'm sure you haven't. Well, do it. What are the effects? What is the lifestyle, actually? Let's get away from the euphemisms, gay and rainbow flag and love is love. You know, how about let's get beyond these 1984 sort of euphemisms and get your head out of the sand and think about what you're actually talking about. So who knows who's listening to this, so I guess I don't want to get into things like rectal tearing and whatnot, and the rampant promiscuity, and the idea that this monogamous relationship far better than the rampant promiscuity, as though that's really a solution, when the norm in so-called gay marriage is that it's an open marriage. No, I don't think these things are good for society. I don't think they're good for children. I don't think they're good for the ones practicing it. And no, I don't think it's biblical. Oh, I'm a hater. Hate speech. Well, I'm sure the Attorney General in Michigan will want to use it that way and come after Christians, come after the Catholic Church. not just in like doing us a favor in finding the priests who have been covered, who are pedophiles, or who are actually the vast majority of it, 80% of it, has nothing to do with pedophilia. The politically incorrect fact is it has to do with homosexuality. Their predation has been on post-pubescent males, high school students, and seminarians. Yeah, that's 80% of it. Don't hear that now, do you? And it's homosexual. Vast majority. So, more hate speech. No, just called facts. Gosh, maybe we need to make a list of hate facts. Right? Facts that we can't have. Facts that we might need to throw down the memory hole, burn down the memory hole. Another allusion to 1984. I do recommend you listen to that or read that. George Orwell. I asked often you find people haven't read that classic. Well, it's coming true right now in a lot of ways. So I recommend you read it. It really is. So no, I'm not hating on anybody. Matter of fact, I'm loving them. Not advocating any violence. No, I'm not. But is religious free speech under fire? Well, obviously, all you have to do is put the name hate in front of it, in front of speech that you don't like, and great, you can shut it down. How about shutting it down by showing it's wrong? If you think it's hate speech, how about immoral speech, inaccurate speech? You know what that needs then? Is moral speech and accurate speech, right? How about a good old-fashioned debate instead of putting a label on something and shutting people down? If you're going after their freedom of speech, you don't think you're going to be losing your freedom of speech? Are you that naive? Maybe you're on the right side now. You'll be on the wrong side before you know it. Many Democrats are finding that out, right? So just today, Chelsea Clinton found that out the hard way when she was confronted by the fringe left lunatics, zombie land out of their minds, mentally ill. Am I saying these just as insults? Well, sort of, but I really don't mean to be using much hyperbole here. I believe actually it's the case. People are so set on fire by hell right now, so filled with true hate, so demonically inspired, they can't think straight. Well, anyway, they were attacking Chelsea Clinton for her supporting Jews in America after having been attacked by that senator. I forget her name, the Muslim senator who was, has made many anti-Semitic remarks. So, yeah, Chelsea Clinton got a feel for what it is after all of her, or at least her parents' attacking of conservatives. Well, now all of a sudden, these so-called mainstream Democrats that moved far left from what FDR ever was, or Kennedy ever was, right? JFK, far left of that they are. But nonetheless, well, now we just have like rabid communists who are trying to attack Democrats like the Clintons because they want the Democrat Party to move just straight into socialism/communism. So anyway, many Democrats like that, many liberals like that, many liberal college professors, very liberal, socialist, pro-abortion, gay marriage, everything, who are finding themselves on the receiving end. Many of them you find interviewed on the Rubin Report. So you can find that on YouTube. Anyway, if you don't stand up for the speech of others, be ready to lose your own speech. And there's many examples of it going on right now, including from liberal Democrats losing their speech, being shut down themselves by, rabid leftists in their own party. Okay, going on to verse 43. And now came a letter from King Antiochus to all the subjects of his realm, bidding them leave ancestral custom of this race or that, and become one nation instead. Unity, yay! Isn't that great? Everybody get along. Just be nice. As long as you agree with what we say, you agree with our vision. Sure, let's be united. Who can argue with that, right? As for the heathen, they fell in readily enough with the royal will, and in Israel itself there were many that chose slavery, offering sacrifice to false gods and leaving the Sabbath unobserved. So maybe it used to be cool to be Catholic or to go to church, to be devout. Well, if you want to get along, you want to make your way up, you know what? You might need to quit doing that, because that might not be working for you anymore if you want to have unity in the nation. Both in Jerusalem and in all cities of Judah, the king's envoys published this edict. Men must live by the law of the heathen round about. Burnt sacrifice, offering, and atonement in God's temple should be none, nor Sabbath kept, nor feast day. And for the more profanation of the sanctuary and of Israel's holy people, altar and shrine and idol must be set up, swine's flesh offered, and all manner of unhallowed meat. I don't know if it was done deliberately or if it's just ending up being used that way, but certainly transgenderism and homosexuality have become idols that Christians, Orthodox Jews, need to bow down to. And you better do it, or you're a hater. You better also eat the pork, so to speak. You better buy into it. You better go along with it. You better celebrate it. You certainly better not say anything against it. You better not question it in any way. You think I'm making it up? Well, maybe you're in a workplace that's really conservative or something, but get out of your little bubble and you'll certainly find that it won't go over well. For most of you, you don't need any convincing. You know damn well that you better go along or keep your mouth shut. Don't you dare bring your Bible to work or something like that, or then somebody would use that as an occasion to directly question you about your stance on sexual issues. Because that's a sign of hate speech, of being part of a hate group. All right. Children be left uncircumcised, and their innocent lives contaminated with rites unclean, abominable. So you better be ready to sacrifice your children in this. Give them over to Satan. If you're not ready to do that, I don't know, being a parent now, how you can't just yank your kids out of the public school system. I don't actually think you have a choice. Or keep your mouth shut, go along, and just hand your kids over to Satan's system. Because they will be indoctrinated. Great chance of it, and you know it. Till the law should be forgotten, and the divine precepts fashioned anew. Durst any neglect the royal bidding, he must die. Verse 60. If any were found that kept the sacred record or obeyed the Lord's will, his life was forfeit to the king's edict. 63. Death it was for a woman to have her child circumcised in defiance of the king. You better not be teaching your children wrong. You better not be teaching them marriage is between one man and one woman, that a man can't become a woman and a woman can't become a man. Better not be saying that stuff. You're going against the state. There in her own house she must be hung, with the child about her neck. And the circumciser, too, must pay for it with his life. Better not be involved in encouraging people in this sort of hateful rhetoric. Or you go down too. Well, if you think I'm over the top, unhinged, think a little deeper. Have a nice day. Go along to get along.